Hello. In this video called Why DeSci, I'm going to give a brief overview of the decentralized science movement through 2022. I'll also give a call for action for a broader adoption of DeSci in the scientific community, principally my own area of expertise, which is related to computational fluid dynamics in the field of astrophysics. So first, why DeSci? Why decentralized science? One of the first areas of scientific inquiry was in astronomy. The earliest records we have of scientific record keeping dates back to the ancient Chinese astronomers that measured sunspots and were able to predict eclipses. The ancient Greeks eventually also were able to predict eclipses, and this led to a wave of new scientific knowledge. Not only did the Greeks and Chinese apparently independently come up with a systematic study of the stars, the ancient Aztecs and Mayans did as well. It's probable that every ancient civilization came up with their own field of astronomy. But the science was heavily funded by the ruling body. Even during Galileo's time, scientific research was heavily financed by city-states or other governments. Galileo helped invent the telescope. Galileo invented a version of the telescope, but his funding was derived from different tribes or city-states wanting to use the telescope for a military advantage. Even today, most scientific research is funded by governments. And for example, in the United States, most of the astronomical science funding comes from either the NSF, the National Science Foundation, or NASA, the National Air and Space Astronautics. Now, this is interesting that in Galileo's time, science was still primarily funded by governmental bodies, because it was precisely at that time during the Renaissance that the arts began to blossom beyond official patronage from the monarchs. It expanded to the nobles and any other patrons of the arts. Now, the sciences are beginning to go through their own renaissance, thanks to the decentralized movement. Now, I want to jump forward quite a bit and discuss some really important moments in the decentralized movement, which I would argue began in 1999 when SETI at Home and possibly some forgotten but similar technologies arose. So SETI at Home was a piece of software, an agreement between UC Berkeley, the founders of SETI at Home, and users that were able to install this piece of software which distributed radio data and allowed citizen scientists to help process the voluminous SETI radio data. Now, SETI at Home closed in 2020, sadly, but a number of similar movements came forth. Folding at Home, for example, launched in 2000, and a lot of people were using the Folding at Home software to help combat COVID. There have been a number of these different technologies, and one major step along the way towards decentralized science, not only allowing people to help with the scientific movement, but to also help reward people that were contributing their time, was the establishment of Gridcoin. Gridcoin allows users of BOINC software, which was used for SETI at Home and a number of other citizen science projects. Gridcoin allows users that are contributing to citizen science, computational citizen science projects to receive tokens for their efforts. Now, there have been a number of steps in recent years that have made the possibility for even a wider experience of DeSci to be possible. One of those is Storj, which enables many petabytes of data to be rented out at will at very affordable prices. There are also a couple of decentralized cloud computing providers such as Akash, Golem, Arweave, to name just a few, that are allowing users to rent computing services similar to GCP, Google Cloud Platform, or Microsoft Azure or Amazon Web Services, but allowing for a fully decentralized experience. In addition to Gridcoin, one of the really important steps towards decentralizing science came with the explosion at NFTs in 2021. The Open Science Foundation, which has been fighting for open access to scientific articles, released its first NFT in 2021, which sold for 13 ETH. And now different groups or DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, have been springing up and have been especially focused on different computational biology, which makes sense because computational biology is an easier science to decentralize. Now, I want to try to make a push for decentralized astrophysics to fully bring us into the modern age. Astronomy has, for the longest time, been tied to centralized funding. And part of that is because it requires truly enormous amounts of resources. I've just submitted a proposal that's going to require 65,000 cores, 1 terabyte of RAM, and 1 petabyte of disk to perform what will hopefully be, if the time is granted, the most powerful simulation of galaxy formation, including high resolution in the circumgalactic medium, performed to date. Now with things like Storj, we have access to that amount of petabytes. With services like Arweave, we have a reasonable number of GPUs. I'm not sure if it's quite enough for groundbreaking science yet, but the point is that we're on the cusp of being able to open up science to everyone, not just those who are privileged enough to have scientific funding, but anyone that might have been in science and have moved on to other areas of their life, anyone who's working on an Ig Nobel Prize sort of research study. The idea that I have for decentralized science is to broaden the scope beyond computational biology, beyond decentralized publishing, and really cover the entire scope of scientific practice, allowing anyone to engage in scientific exploration and discovery.